Hello everyone, I am Sehani Sirivardhana from IEEE PES Student Branch Chapter of University of Moratuvar. Welcome you all to the webinar on Lighting Beyond an Equation organized by IEEE Power and Energy Society Student Branch Chapter of University of Moratuvar. Today, we are pleased to welcome Engineer Sani Vijayaratne, our guest speaker of today's session. Engineer Sani Vijayaratne is the business unit head of Indoor Lighting for Diesel and Motor Engineering Private Limited Company. She is a veteran in the field of lighting with 16 years of experience, and she is the pioneer in landmark lighting projects in Sri Lanka in architectural lighting, sports lighting, and street lighting and landscape lighting of hotels, universities, and auditoriums. Today, she will be sharing with us her expert knowledge and experience on lighting. Before starting the session, dear participants, again I humbly request you all to make sure that your mics and cameras are turned off during the webinar. Further, if you have any questions, you can drop them in the chat box or you can ask them in the Q&A session at the end of the lecture. Now, I cordially invite Ms. Sani Vijayaratne to commence the session.
Thank you. Thank you everybody and good evening. Good evening to all of you in the audience online. When I first stepped into lighting 16 years ago, I never thought lighting is such a wide subject. I never realized. But as I proceed, I noted there are a lot of other aspects which has to be taken into account but cannot be framed into those numerical equations. So today, we will be discussing about those other aspects which cannot be taken into account by way of equations. So let me share my screen with you. I hope you can see it. Can someone give me a feedback?
Sorry, we cannot see your screen.
Okay.
Yes, now can.
Okay. So this is all about lighting beyond an equation. So these are the topics which we are going to discuss today. Let's go one by one. Light is not just a part of electromagnetic spectrum. We all know it's a part of this spectrum which lies between UV and IR, and it carries energy as light and enables us to see through our eyes. But it has a lot of other impact on human body and our brain. What do you think about when you are looking at this picture? What comes to your mind? This is a restaurant, nicely lit, actually well lit. It's okay. But look at the second picture. This again a restaurant, but not as rich as the previous one. But this has a different lighting setup. This is more personal, like individually lit up tables are there. For me, if I am entering into this restaurant, this gives me more personalized feeling, more cozy feeling than this one. It is just because of the way they have lit up. In this screen, this picture, they have used some cold color lighting, and whereas here, this is more yellowish. And here you can see there are some bright areas and there are some dark areas. You can see the shadow and brightness. But here, it's all evenly lit up and there's no variation within the light level. So because of this, due to differences in the lighting design, these two restaurants will give you two different ambiances when you are dining. So this proves you light creates your mood. It not just enables you to see, but it has a psychological impact to create your mood. Look at this picture. This is a nice landscape picture lit up with some cold color lighting. Now see, this is more advanced source of light, which gives you more warming feeling. Same environment with two different light sources gives us two different feelings. Light creates our mood. What about this building? We hardly get artificial lighting, but this is full of daylight. This has a lot of glass walls and this gets enough daylight. What our body and mind always demand from us is daylight, not natural lighting. What suits best for us is daylight, not natural lighting. But we can't always depend on daylight because daylight is not controllable and it gives us UV and IR rays which we don't want, and it gives heat. So because of those numerous reasons, we have no other option than relying on artificial lighting for our day-to-day requirements. But you have to remember, our body and my brain always demand natural light, natural daylight. Best source of light is always daylight. As engineers, we always approach our lighting with set of equations. So this is typical approach to a lighting design as a normal person. First, we look at the lux level requirement. If it's an office lighting, we want a little more. If it's an drawing office, we need even more lighting. And then we are looking at specific lighting effects which we want, whether it's dimmable or whether there are objects to highlight and these aspects. And then we put our basic equations and come out with number of light points. Then we go into LV design. So that's normal lighting design which comes into our mind. But there are a lot of other aspects we have to think when we are doing a lighting design. So what are those aspects? Let's see. This picture shows you three types of which has to be looked at when creating the best light. The quality of light. Visual comfort. First one is visual comfort. That means when we are arranging a light for a room or some kind of performance in our building, the light source has to be with a proper color rendering. That means that light source should enable us to see true colors of our objects. If it is red, red should be red. You know when you are going to buy a sari or a dress, inside the shop it's a color, but when you come out to the daylight, it shows another color. So those type of defects should not be there in a good lighting system. And the homogeneous brightness. That means if you are working on a table, if your table has right side has a higher brightness and left side is dark. So those kind of deviation should not be there in a good lighting system. But you can have your table well lit, but around the table it's little below. That's allowed. So your shadow and light should be properly balanced. When it comes to visual performance, that's about your lighting level and about glare control. Glare means if your light source directly comes to your eye and it creates unnecessary stress on your eye, it calls glare. So those things should also be avoided. And visual ambience, that means light color. You saw in the previous pictures, when the color is warm, light color is warm, our mindset gives us a different feeling than when it is cold. So color of the source has a greater impact on the feeling we get with lighting, ambience of our building. And also direction of light. When you have a light source in front of you, it will highlight all the features of your face. But if you have a light from the side of your face, you will have more shadows on your face. When you might have experienced this when you are taking a selfie. So that's what called direction of light and modeling. How to play with shadows with light. So those are the three other main aspects of a good lighting system which we cannot tackle by way of equations. All these aspects has to be realized with experience. And there are more other criteria which you can look at is daylight integration. That means how do you maximize the use of daylight and energy efficiency, most importantly. And change of lighting situations, like if it is an auditorium, you might be using auditorium for several purposes. If it is a lecture, you need a different setup. If there's a drama playing on the stage, then you need a different setup. So these different lighting situations has to be created by same system. And personalized settings. That means if you are sitting in a classroom, maybe today we have only 30 students, but tomorrow only 5 students. So entire lighting system need not be switched on when there are less students. So those type of settings are also needed. So likewise, there are a lot of other aspects to think of when we are designing a lighting system. So how to make a lighting system more effective? It should be more human-centric. And obviously, it should be energy efficient as well. So let's see what is human-centric lighting. Human-centric lighting is all about daylight, all about the rays which comes to our earth from sun. You know, the sunlight has a lot of colors in it. There are 7 colors in the rainbow, and from morning to night, in the daylight, in the sunlight, with the rays of sunlight, we get all these colors. You know, in the morning, we see sun as golden yellow. As we proceed towards noon, it becomes blue. And again in the evening, it becomes again bright red. So all these colors are merged in daylight. So with the 24-hour cycle, our body and mindset, everything goes according to this cycle. Morning to evening, those color variation, and then night, it is dark, and again in the morning, again gold, blue, and red. So this cycle is called circadian cycle. Our body is already set up for this cycle. If we try to change this cycle by artificially, the body will react for that negatively. In this picture, you can see in the midnight, whole world is in dark. Our mind demands us to go and sleep. Around 2 o'clock, we expect our body to be in deep sleep. And in the morning, with mild daylight, our mind gives us a signal to wake up. And in the morning, At around 8 o'clock, we are so energetic with this bluish light, and we are so active. At around noon, still active, and when when it comes to the evening, we tend to feel so tired. When the sun gives us the red light, when the sun becomes reddish, it automatically our body says us to go and rest. So this is our cycle, and our body is already set up for this cycle. When we are setting up an artificial lighting system, we naturally tend to give other lighting effects to our brain, and entire setup is getting unbalanced. So this will have a long-term negative effect on our mind and body. This seriously affects for some of the occupants of buildings, whereas as you see in the slide, occupants of full covered buildings like factories, garment factories, they work on shift and the buildings are fully covered, and 24 hours they are exposed to artificial lighting, same color, same lighting level, same effect entire day. So when they come out of the building, they are so stressed. It is not good for their long-term health. And patients in hospitals, they also have this mentality. They can't go out of the room and they can't see outside. So most of the European countries, they tend to set up lighting levels according to the variation in the outside to give the feeling, the same feeling to patients. And air passengers, basically when there's a jet lag inside the plane, they tend to simulate the same lighting pattern and create the mindset the next destination, to harmonize the feeling of jet lag. They make use of lighting. So these are some events which we have to play with artificial lighting to tally with daylight. Here you can see the same story which I explained. At 8 o'clock, because of the natural environment, we are so active, we are happy. At 12 noon, we are so concentrated and active. But at 5 o'clock, you can see the time in this wall clock. We are ready to go. Our mindset says us, now it's up, time is up, we have to go home. So that's how our brain works. And we need to understand, as lighting designer, lighting engineer, we have to understand this psychology and we have to serve accordingly. Then that's the thinking we have to get into our mind when designing human-centric lighting. But at the same time, lighting system should be efficient because energy is so scarce. So how to do that? If we have a 10 square meter in our building, we need this much of watts to light it up. But it all depends on your design. You can use 50 watts to light it up, or else we can use 100 watts to light up the same space. It depends on how you place your luminaire, how you place your lighting fixture. So how many watts per meter depends on your design. And how many lumens per watt. You can control your wattage by using efficient light source as well. If you want to light up this 100 meters space, 100 square meter space, if you need 50 watts, you can use, it's not 50 watts. Actually, let's take it like this. If you need 50 watts to light up 100 meter space from a particular light source, that light source will give you lumens of, let's say, 200 lumens. Then to create this 200 lumens, if you use a different light source, it might take only 25 watts. So depending on your light source also, you can make your lighting system efficient. So there are two ways to make your lighting system efficient. One is to improve the watts per square meter by your design, and lumens per watt by selecting proper lighting source. And there are some other ways to improve your lighting design as well. You can integrate daylight into your system. If you have a lot of glass walls in your building, you know, it's obviously you can get daylight in. But if it is a rainy day, you can't wholly depend on your daylight. It's not enough. But in that case, you can switch on your artificial lighting. If you are working on at night shift, then you can switch on your lighting at 100%. But if it's raining on the daytime, you can switch on your lighting to 50%. So that type of daylight dependent lighting system can be designed. You can use sensors and timers, and you can create such a lighting system. And dimmable and lighting control systems. You can dim, like if you are in a lecture room, if you are listening to a lecture, you can have full light output. And if you are listening to a video projection, then you can have dim light level. And also if it is drama or a singing event, you can have red, green, blue colors, are colorful lights. So lighting control can also be used to improve your lighting design. And smart solutions. When it comes to smart solutions, you can you can control your lighting remotely through your phone or some other means of applications in smart solutions. So all these options are available to improve your lighting design as per the requirement. So let's go one by one for three types of case studies with different lighting applications. Case one is shop lighting. So these are some aspects which I came across when it comes to designing shop lighting. Have you seen such a picture in Sri Lanka, such shops, supermarkets in Sri Lanka? Hope you have. So you can see here, there are a lot of continuous lines going on the ceiling, and the area is evenly lit up, and it's fully lit up. It's about here, there are about 800 lumens in this room, and all the are lit up, and there are no shadows in this. And look at this picture. This is a high-end showroom for dresses, but this showroom has no light level of this one is much lower than the earlier one, the supermarket. Why there's the different like this? Light level of shop light depends on the shop profile. The customer takes two different purchasing decisions in these two shops. The first one, this supermarket, the customer comes here and stay about maybe 20 minutes and take more than 30 purchasing decisions. He will purchase more than 30 or 20 items at one go. And he's not thinking about what to buy. He's not so particular about buying these juices and other day-to-day requirements. These are small, like cost-wise small and everyday needs. They don't want to spend much time in a supermarket like this. So what they want to see is, they want to see the price and expiry date clearly. So this kind of lighting is required for such a supermarket. But when it comes to a showroom like this sells more expensive items, and seller takes more time, purchaser wants more time to make the purchasing decision. He will look at this dress and he or she will wear it and take few like 10 or 15 minutes to think about I'm buying it or not. So in such a shop, it should be inviting for customer to stay. So likewise, more personalized lighting system is required in high-end shops like this. So when you are designing a shop light, you have to think about the profile of shop and what type of service is provided in that shop. And this aspect is another one, special light colors to highlight colors or freshness of those products. If you are going, when you are going to such a supermarket next time, if you see carefully, you will notice that they have used different type of light colors to highlight different products. Like if you are going to the fruit corner, the light is different to the meat corner. So there are different light colors to highlight the colors of fruits and meat. So those types of aspects are there to consider when it comes to shop lighting. And this lighting system has a flexible mounting system because shops arrangement differs from week to week, even it might be from day to day. Shop owner will set up different setup in one day, and if they want to display another set of clothes, he will set up he wants another setup to light up. So this kind of this track mounting system, they can move the lighting and change the light directions, so they can have different light effects from the same system. So flexible mounting systems are needed in some kind of shops. So that's some specific applications about shop lighting. And then let's see about office lighting. We saw offices decades ago. At that time, offices were all about doing paperwork. So lighting was so different, and you can see on your right side, individual lights are there for each workstation, and there were no computers at all. So this is how a typical office lighting system looked a decade ago. And this one is a modern lighting system. You can see there's no bright light sources there. It's a soft, continuous line of light. And you can see there are computers all over the place. And you can see they have used daylight from through these glass windows. So this is how a modern office lighting system has been designed. So what are the aspects we have to take into account when it comes to office lighting? The most important aspect is avoiding glare on visual display units, because there are a lot of computers. Almost every workstation will have a computer. So when we are doing office lighting system, we get a lot of complaints by getting glare on the screen. So we should pay our attention not to place the luminaires behind our computer. So the lighting luminaire should be properly selected with less glare, and it should be providing individual lighting for workstations. That means different users are using different workstations, and they need different needs for lighting. Likewise, AC. Your AC is not common for everyone. Same goes to lighting as well. So my required lighting level might not be matching to my colleague. So if he can provide individual lights for individual workers, it will be more pleasing for them. And also task-dependent lighting level. In an office, everyone is not performing the same task. If it's a design office, maybe draftman is doing drawings and clerk is entering data. So their lighting level for their task is different. So depending on their type of work also, we can set the lighting levels. And most importantly, this is highly entirely technical point, the harmonic content. Now, when it comes to LED, this is all electronics inside those luminaires, and it creates harmonics. And also, all our equipments, the computers also creates harmonics. And finally, the entire electrical system creates a lot of harmonics in the neutral cable. So this harmonics content of lighting fixture also has to be controlled, and proper precautions has to be taken when we are selecting lighting for officers. The case study 3 is for outdoor lighting, sports grounds. I'm sure you have seen cricket matches under lighting lit grounds. So this is how these two are not from Sri Lankan grounds, but you can see in the first picture there's a shadow, but when the pictures are broadcasted through television, these shadows are not allowed. If the shadows are there, it's so disturbing. So when we're designing a lighting system for a sports venue to facilitate the TV camera broadcasting, the main concern goes to shadows. So how to avoid the shadow? You know, in our country, there are stadiums lit up with 3 or 5 high masts. When it comes to when we have such high masts, if you see carefully, you can see there are 6 shadows around the player. There are 6 tiny shadows. But if you can do the design in the pavilion, like here I have displayed, it will give you no shadow. But it depends on the cost. Almost all the stadiums might not have a pavilion like this around the stadium, around the ground. So depending on your system, you have to control the glare and compromise it with the cost and come to a balanced situation. So when you are, if you are doing a design for a outdoor sports venue, minimize the shadow will be a challenge. And how to avoid glare? You know, in sports lighting system, we use very powerful lights. Sometimes it's 2 kilowatts. It's very bright and directly aimed to the ground. So when we are enjoying the match in the pavilion, if you look at the light source, it will give a bright glare to us, which is very irritating. So how to avoid it? If we need to hide the light source, we need to have a higher roof or very high mast. Again, it is costly. So it's very difficult to avoid glare because we don't have unlimited budget to spend. So how to avoid glare? Then you can think of a light fixture with some kind of shield. But again, it's a limitation. If we cover the light fixture with a kind of cover, then it will not directing the light to the place which we want to project. So likewise, there are limitations in glare settings and shadow settings. So always our task is to find the balance between the lighting effect and cost. And there's another interesting aspect to think when it comes to lighting of stadiums for TV broadcasting. In normal calculations, all what we check is the horizontal light level on our working plane. But when it comes to stadium lighting with stadium or any other lighting for TV cameras, we are so particular about vertical lighting. That's because when the TV camera is placed horizontally, what matters to the lens is the vertical component of light. So when designing a lighting system for a TV cameras, we always check the vertical component and horizontal component of lights. So there are, if you check a standard for sports lighting, you can see both these components are separately given and measured and monitored. So those are the aspects which come to my mind when it comes to sports lighting. Then we have another interesting topic, light pollution. So we know the best option is daylight, but since daylight, we cannot rely daylight 100%, we don't have any other option than going into artificial lights. But it's all about creating some negative impact on the environment. So you can see this, how bright this city during the night. Look at this one. This is Sri Lanka. This is the map given by measuring the light pollution. You can see the cities are shining like jewels. But this is not what expected by our nature. Why light pollution is so bad? First thing we comes to our mind is energy consumption. We waste energy on unnecessary lighting. So we shouldn't spend energy on lighting without any purpose. If it's excess lights, we shouldn't allow it. And the most importantly, it disrupts the ecosystem and wildlife. Light pollution. You can see it had a bad impact on birds and even wild creatures. You can see like, you know that fireflies, you have seen fireflies recently, Kalamadriyo kiyanne? They want the darkness to breed. Breed because to find each other, they want the darkness. But when we are lighting up the entire universe with artificial light, they are unable to go to one another and their breeding is not happening. So they are now gone forever. So likewise, there are ecosystems which is permanently disrupted due to artificial lighting. So we should be so careful in designing lighting systems not to disturb this ecosystem and wildlife. And third item is the human health. Human health also always demanding the circadian cycle to activate. But if we are imposing artificial light in a higher dose, definitely it will harm the human health. So that's why lighting pollution is so dangerous. So you can see here how the sky has been lit up with this lighting system. So do you think this is a good solution? You can see here there are stars, but hardly you can see it. But if you want to use this landscaping at night, what can we do without lighting it artificially? Are there any solutions to this? Can we improve? Yes, there are solutions. Look at this. We can use lighting, a luminilla type of lighting fixture, which will not project light upwards. So all the light produced should be focused to the earth without polluting the air. So you can see here the sky is dark. If you are so concerned, you can switch off unnecessary lights. Then you can see the surrounding is even darker. And if it is not necessary, you can completely switch off. You can do this based on timing. If you are lighting up a highway, so at 6 o'clock to 10 o'clock, it should be fully lit up, and 10 to 12, 50%, 12 to 2, 30, 25%, and 2 to 4. If it is not used, you can switch it off. So likewise, depending on the usage, we can control the lighting system not to pollute the surrounding. So that's how we have to look at controlling the light pollution. So as engineers, we have a responsibility towards doing designing good lighting systems to our country always. So you can see how harmful is this lighting system than this one. This is what Mother Nature asked for, but this is what we are giving. So we should take care of disturbing the environment at minimum possible level. So then my last topic, if you want to choose your career with lighting, how can you do it? You should be passionate about lighting, because it's not about calculating and coming to a equation. You should know about your surrounding and aesthetic aspects of lighting. There are a lot of things to think about, and it comes by experience. So you should be passionate and you should be patient to get that experience. And also there should be some creativity, because it's not just giving 10 light points to a building, but placing, how to place those 10 lighting points and what to fix at those 10 lighting points. That's a creative decision which you have to take. So creativity is needed if you want to become a good lighting designer. And your life will be more insights with lot of mock-ups. Bit of hard work is needed. And you need to know not about electrical engineering basics. You need to know your physics, electronics, and architecture, and psychology. You need to understand the psychology of mankind and biology of other living beings in the earth. So a lot of things are going in parallel with the work of lighting design. So this is an interesting area, and we need more and more lighting designers to the industry. If you have this, if you are passionate and if you are creative, you can become a good lighting designer. So that's all about my presentation. Now we can go for questions.
Thank you, ma'am. Let's move on to the Q&A session. If participants have any questions, you can either unmute your mic and ask or send your questions to the chat.
So there's one question from chat. How do we exactly know the effective lumens and watts of our lighting system which will be applied for an outdoor environment? What are the methods we can use to accomplish this task? Effective lumens and watts. So this is at this point you have to rely on the data given by manufacturers. Almost all manufacturers will provide these details with their products. How much lumen is emitted and how much of what is consumed, and what's the beam angle of the fixture, what's the glare rating. All this information is provided by the manufacturer. So if you go through the details of the data sheet, definitely you can get this information. There's another one. We can see IR lighting to broadcast outdoor activities. Like, can we use IR lighting to broadcast outdoor activities like cricket or football? Infrared lights are basically used for therapy lighting. It's infrared lights has more heat in that. So applications of infrared is basically for health therapy. I haven't seen any application in lighting. That's IR infrared lamps are basically for medical applications, not for lighting. Are there any strategies which can be used in office design so as to maximize the psychological well-being of office employees? Yes, that's what we discussed, and we discussed as human-centric lighting. So at offices, we are continuously working, sometimes 8 to 5, all 5 days. So human well-being is an utmost factor which we have to consider. So always there should be, lighting system has to be considered for taking human-centric lighting and human well-being. So I think this question is discussed during the session several times. So, so there's another question. What are the new trends in lighting for hotels? So trends in lighting for hotels. The trend is always now LEDs, but for hotel applications, I would say it's basically the design. So several different hotels have been designed with different concepts. So I don't know what you mentioned about trend in hotel lighting for hotels, but technically there are a lot of LED applications, LED controlling systems. Like you can create almost all the colors in the palette with LED lights. So you can use this colorful lighting, and you can have lines, or you can have continuous lines, or you can have large plates of light, plate-like light sources, or you can have large balls, or different shapes of light fixtures are there. So all these can be used for hotel lighting depending on different concepts. There's another question. Is there any standard for lighting level specification for different locations? Yes, there are a set of standards in Sri Lanka. There's a building code in that building code, different lighting requirements are set up, and internationally also there are lighting standards. We can use even sometimes we use those standards as well. For sports lighting, when it comes to sports lighting, there are other specific lighting standards designed for different types of sports. For cricket, there's a different standard. For rugby, there's a different standard. For football, there's another standard. Likewise, for each and every lighting application, there are standards. Have I missed early questions in the talk? What are the possible lighting conditions for indoor planting or vegetation? Yes, for vegetation and planting, there's a special kind of lighting for which they have, manufacturers have developed, because that particular speciality of that light source is it creates the same spectrum light as daylight and gives the same impact, which give like same impact to the plant similar to the daylight daylight. For plant lighting, there are such special lighting solutions, and also you might know knowing that but the circadian cycle has been modified for plant nurseries to grow, the speed up the rate of plant growth. So whenever seller or plant nursery owner wants to grow the plant speedily, they can change the light level and they can have this day and night circle at a higher speed, and then plant growth rate is increased. So that technique or that trick is being used most of the greenhouses to speed up the growth of the plants. If we use daylight harvest in domestic houses, what are the suitable methods for that? Obviously, there are several solutions to use daylight in houses. This has to be considered from the design of the house itself. So this comes with traditional architecture, and you know that when we are putting up a house, we look at the direction of path of the sun, and we place the roof arrangement likewise. So those traditional know-how has come with this thinking only. So when we are getting the sunlight into the house, you can use windows as much as possible. So that's the best method. And you can use skylights and open areas and corridors. So those type of techniques can be used to get daylight into houses when it comes to houses. And for factories, there are solutions like light tubes. In that light tubes, what it does is it take light into that tube at a higher level, a different location, and through the tube it transmit light into the room. So during the process, the light level reduces, but certain amount of light comes into the room. So that light tube is another technology which used in factories. in other countries, but I have not seen that technique in Sri Lanka. Is there a standard for LED? What are the specifications to check in buying an LED lamp? So that's a good question. Sri Lanka Standard Institution has developed a standard for LEDs, but it was not mandatory. But what I heard is that they are going to make it mandatory from this month onward. So after legislation comes into the uh, legislation is activated, all the LEDs will be regulated with that standard. So when you are buying an LED, what you have to look at is look at the lumen level of the bulb. It is already mentioned in the box, not the wattage. Like if it is CFL, you know, 8 watt. Like if you have seen that incandescent bulb, it was very well regulated with wattage. We only had 50 watt, 60 watt, 75 watt, and 100 watt. But when it comes to LED, you get all the wattages in the bulb. Depending on the manufacturer, they manufacture different wattages. The wattage is not regulated by any standard. So even this current standard does not regulate the wattage. They regulate only the efficiency. So you have to look at the lumen level of the bulb when you are buying the lamp. If it is for a living room, if you need 800 lumen, that will be fine. If it's for a small bathroom, even 400 lumen lamp will be fine. So go by the lumen level, amount of lumen which is mentioned in the box, and the color also you have to look at. So those are the aspects you have to check when you're buying an LED. There's another question. What are the governing standards for LEDs in Sri Lanka? Where can the products be tested locally to verify the products are in accordance with the standards? So LED standards are there. So what I mentioned previously is the LED standards for LED bulb, standard for LED bulbs. But for luminaires also there are standards. Those are direct extraction of IEC. Those standards are available. And if you want to test a lighting fixture or lighting product, there's a testing lab at Ceylon Electricity Board. It is located at BMICH. So there's a lab and you can get it tested at very reasonable pricing. And also the facilities available at Nerd Center, Ekala. So those are the 2 labs which we use for testing of our products. Now there are some lights in the market which can control the color temperature using mobile app. If we use these lights and change temperature of the light during the day, will it be effective? Yes, that's what I described as human-centric lighting. So it's true. That's the truth. Like our daylight change its color according to the time of day. So, but our artificial light source emits the same light throughout the 24 hours. So, if we are able to change the light color with switching or any kind of technology, that effect will give us a more pleasing feeling to our mind. So if you can, you try it, it will give you a nice feeling. So I think I have answered all the questions. Are there any other questions or have I missed any of those questions?
There's a new question.
Okay.
What are the concern areas in lighting where engineering solutions are still looked for?
Sorry, I didn't get it. Can you
What are the concern areas in lighting where engineering solutions are still looked for?
engineering solutions are still looked for? So it's like this. Almost all the areas are being addressed, but day by day those are getting improved and adding more and more features. But so I can't say there's any field which we have not been addressed so far. But environment change continuously and technologies are emerging day by day, so there are improvements all the time. So if I take an example, we didn't talk about human-centric lighting 5 years ago, so it was not even thought of. But now technologies have come into play, and the requirement is understood and impact is noted, so it is being discussed. So likewise, the conditions are being changed, so I'm unable to say any particular area which has not been addressed. That's my answer for that. So the one example would be for sanitization, the germicidal lamps. Now a lot of solutions are have been developed in there's a rapid development these days with the corona virus. So UV emitting lamps are being used for sanitization. So that's one such area.
So are there any new questions participants can still ask? Seems that it is the end of the Q&A session. Thank you, madam. I think all the questions have been answered now. Now we have reached the end of the session, so I would like to express my heartfelt gratitude to Engineer Sarani Wijayaratne, Head of Indoor Lighting, Lighting Solutions Department, Diesel and Motor Engineering PLC, for conducting the session on lighting beyond an equation and sharing her knowledge with us. Also, I would like to thank our chapter advisor for IEEE Power and Energy Society, Student Branch Chapter of University of Mortua, Dr. Lindula N. Vidanagamarachiye, Senior Lecturer, Department of Electrical Engineering, University of Mortua, for coordinating and organizing this lecture, and all the participants for their interactive participation in this webinar organized by the IEEE Power and Energy Society, Student Branch Chapter of University of Mortua, on behalf of the chapter. The recording of this webinar will be uploaded to the IEEE Student Branch University of Mortua YouTube channel. Thank you for joining with us. Good night.
Thank you.